Have you ever considered how the things you value most seem to change as life progresses? Things that once felt crucial, like maintaining a huge group of acquaintances, might not hold the same importance. Here's a thought-provoking idea. You may not actually need to asterisk a large circle of friends after you reach 70. That might sound jarring initially, but hear me out. Prioritizing your independence and focusing on your own well-being could be one of the most intelligent and liberating choices you ever make. In this exploration, we're going to consider 6 compelling reasons why strong social ties might not be as essential in your later years, and how letting go of certain expectations could unlock a happier and more liberated you. Stick around until the end, because you might just discover a perspective that completely reshapes how you view yourself in your golden years. One of the most liberating realizations that dawns with age, particularly after you've passed 70, is that you no longer need to prove your worth to anyone. Think back, so much of your early years were spent seeking validation, often through friendships or social connections. Recall your 20s, 30s, or even your 50s. How much energy did you pour into maintaining appearances or seeking approval? Friendships back then often served as a stage, whether it was showcasing your wit at a dinner, proving your competence to colleagues, or ensuring you were invited to the right events. There was this unspoken pressure to be seen, to be liked, to fit in. Every interaction carried a subtle undercurrent of performance. You might have carefully chosen your words to impress someone, dressed a certain way to keep up with the crowd, or stretched yourself thin to stay connected to people who, in hindsight, didn't truly matter. It was exhausting, wasn't it? The need to belong, to be accepted, to have your existence affirmed by others drove so many decisions. But now, at this stage of life, that chapter is largely behind you. You've already navigated the long road of building a career, raising a family, or carving out your place in the world. Your legacy, whatever form it takes, is etched into the years you've lived. The opinions of others simply don't carry the weight they once did. At 70 or beyond, you've seen enough of life to know that true contentment doesn't hinge on what someone else thinks of you. It's not about the size of your social circle or the number of people who call you friend. Fulfillment comes from within, from the quiet confidence of knowing who you are and what you've accomplished. There's no longer any need to chase friendships for the sake of status, reputation, or external validation. You've earned the right to simply be asterisk you. You don't need a chorus of voices to tell you your worth. You've defined it for yourself over decades of experience. Consider the story of Eleanor Roosevelt, who, despite her prominent position, often felt isolated. She channeled her energy into humanitarian work and writing, finding fulfillment in serving others and expressing her own unique voice rather than seeking constant social approval. This is the gift of the stage of life. You are no longer tethered to the expectations of others. You don't need to prove your intelligence, your kindness, your success. Those things are already part of who you are. Younger people might still be caught up in the game of perception, fretting over whether they're admired or respected enough, but you've outgrown that. You know your value doesn't depend on a guest list or a social media like. It's yours, hard-earned and unshakable. The only person you need to answer to now is yourself, and that feels pretty great. If you're finding this helpful, let me know by commenting below. As you move into your later years, something fundamental shifts inside you. The things that once seemed essential, a circumflex year's bustling social calendars, lively gatherings, constant chatter, a circumflex years start to lose their appeal. Instead, you find yourself craving something deeper, something quieter, peace. Not just the absence of noise, but a stillness that settles into your bones, a calm that lets you breathe freely without the weight of social demands. In your youth, being surrounded by people might have felt like a badge of honor, a sign of a vibrant, well-lived life. But now, you realize that peace is the real treasure, far more precious than another crowded room or forced conversation. Friendships, even the best ones, come with strings attached. There's an unspoken contract. You're expected to show up, to listen, to contribute. There are phone calls to return, birthdays to remember, invitations to accept or politely decline. It's not that these things are inherently bad, far from it. It's just that after 70, you start to weigh the cost. Every social interaction takes time, energy, and sometimes a little piece of your patience. And when you've lived long enough, you begin to ask, is this worth it? Do I want to spend my precious hours navigating small talk or soothing someone else's drama? More often than not, the answer is no. Your time is yours now, more than ever before. You've earned the right to spend it however you damn well please, and for many, that means choosing solitude over socializing. Think of the artist Georgia O'Keeffe, who famously retreated to the New Mexico desert to find the peace and solitude she needed to create her iconic paintings. She prioritized her art and her inner world over social obligations, and her legacy speaks for itself. That's the beauty of this age. You are no longer obligated to fill your days with noise just to prove you're still in the game. You don't need a packed schedule to feel alive. You can savor your own company, free from the pressure to perform or entertain. Peace becomes a priority, not because you're retreating from the world, but because you're embracing a different kind of richness. It's the richness of a mind at ease, a heart unburdened by obligation. And the more you lean into it, the more you realize how much you've been craving it all along. So, if you've ever felt a pang of guilt for skipping that coffee date or turning down that invite, let it go. You're not abandoning life, you're curating it. You're choosing calm over chaos, depth over distraction. Peace isn't just a luxury at this stage, it's a right, and it only gets sweeter with time. If this resonates with you, let me know in the comments. Fewer friendships mean fewer disappointments. Life has a way of teaching you hard truths, and one of the toughest is this: not every friend is asterisk a friend asterisk. By the time you hit 70, you've likely seen it all: the circumflex years of friends who vanish when times get tough, pals who take more than they give, connections that fade as soon as the convenience runs out. It's a bitter pill to swallow, but it's also a clarifying one. Because here's the upside: when you pare down your social circle, you don't just shed obligations, you shed disappointments too. Fewer friendships mean fewer chances for letdowns, and at this stage, that's a trade worth making. Think about the nature of friendship. Even the strongest bonds come with expectations. You're supposed to check in, be there for the big moments, offer a shoulder when it's needed, and in return, you hope for the same. But what happens when that balance dips? You reach out, and the call goes unanswered. You make plans, and they cancel last minute. You pour your heart into a relationship only to realize it's a one-way street. That stingy circumflex euros its disappointment, and it's heavier than it looks. In your younger years, you might have brushed it off, kept trying, kept hoping. But now you know better. You don't have the time or energy for relationships that don't meet you halfway. Consider the example of Maya Angelou, who had a close circle of trusted friends, but also understood the importance of protecting her energy and avoiding relationships that drained her. She focused on nurturing genuine connections and letting go of those that were not mutually supportive. That's the secret here. Fewer friendships don't mean isolation, they mean freedom. Freedom from the stress of unmet expectations, freedom from the emotional clutter of lukewarm connection. You don't need a roster of names to feel whole, you just need the ones who lift you, not drag you down. And if that list is short, so be it. Quality beats quantity every time. So, if you've ever felt the ache of a friendship that fizzled, don't mourn it, celebrate it. You're not losing out, you're clearing space for peace, for joy, for asterisk, and that's a gift worth keeping. If you're finding these lessons useful, please let me know by leaving a comment. Your time becomes more precious. As you journey through life and approach your later years, something profound begins to dawn on you. Time is not just a resource, it's the most precious currency you possess. When you're young, time often feels infinite, like an endless horizon stretching out before you. There's always another weekend to spend with friends, another evening to linger in casual conversations, another chance to build or mend relationships. You might fritter it away without a second thought, caught up in the whirlwind of social obligations, fleeting romances, or the anxious need to belong. But by the time you reach 70, or even earlier for some, a quiet shift happens in your soul. You start to feel the weight of each passing hour, the significance of every single day, and the fleeting beauty of every moment. Time, you realize, is no longer something to take for granted. It's a finite gift, and how you choose to spend it becomes one of the most important decisions you'll ever make. Friendships, for all their warmth and meaning, demand a certain investment of this precious resource. There are phone calls to make, plans to coordinate, visits to arrange, and emotional energy to expend. In your younger years, you might have poured yourself into these connections willingly, thriving on the laughter, the shared stories, and the sense of community. But as the years pile up, you begin to see that not all friendships are equal. Some remain vibrant and life-giving, worth every second you give them. Others, though, start to feel like echoes of the past, habits you've carried forward out of nostalgia or duty rather than genuine joy. And at this stage of life, when time feels more finite than ever, you earn the right to pause and reflect. Is this how I want to spend my days? Does this relationship enrich my life, or has it become just another task I feel compelled to check off? Take the example of Laura Ingalls Wilder, who in her later years focused on writing her Little House books, dedicating her time to preserving her memories and sharing them with the world rather than maintaining a busy social schedule. This is the secret people don't often talk about. When you release the friendships that no longer serve you, you don't just free up your schedule, you reclaim a piece of yourself. You gain the space to pursue the passions you've always wanted to explore, to rest without guilt, to move through life at a pace that feels right for you. Time becomes less about pleasing others and more about honouring yourself. Imagine waking up without the weight of obligations hanging over you, free to spend your morning with a cup of tea and a good book, or an afternoon sketching, gardening, or simply sitting in stillness. That's the gift of selectivity, knowing that every moment you have is yours to shape. So, if you ever find yourself hesitating over a friendship that feels more like a chore than a joy, ask yourself, is this the best use of my time? Because after all you've lived through, you've earned the right to spend it however you damn well please. True companionship comes from within. There's a myth that weaves its way through much of life, the idea that happiness in your later years depends on having a wide circle of friends around you. Society drills this into us from a young age: be social, stay connected, fill your life with people, because the alternative, we're told, is loneliness. But as you cross the threshold of 70, you begin to see through that illusion. The truth is far richer and more liberating. The most enduring, reliable, and profound companionship you'll ever find isn't out there in the world, it's within you. After decades of living, loving, stumbling, and growing, you've come to know yourself in a way no one else ever will, and with that intimacy comes a powerful revelation: you are enough. For so long, we're conditioned to seek validation and connection outside ourselves. We chase friendships, build networks, and measure our worth by how many people we can call on a Friday night. Being alone is painted as something to dread, a void to fill with noise and activity. But there's a vast difference between solitude and loneliness, and it becomes crystal clear in later life. Some of the most contented people in their 70s, 80s, and beyond, others who have learned to embrace being alone, not as a sentence of isolation, but as a canvas for self-discovery, reflection, and serenity. They've found that true companionship doesn't require a crowd. It starts with making peace with the person you see in the mirror. Consider the example of the Buddha, who emphasized the importance of inner peace and self-reliance, teaching that true liberation comes from within rather than from external attachments. That's the hidden truth. Real companionship isn't about how many names are in your address book or how often your phone pings with invitations. It's about how at home you feel in your own skin. When you stop leaning on others to fill your time, entertain you, or define your worth, you step into a kind of independence that's rare and beautiful. You don't need a room full of voices to feel alive. You become your own source of laughter, insight, and comfort. And here's the magic of it. When you're truly content in your own company, the friendships that *2* come your way feel effortless. You no longer cling to people out of fear or boredom. Instead, you draw in those rare souls who align with your spirit, who respect your boundaries, who add to your peace rather than disrupt it. So, if you've ever worried that stepping back from friendships might leave you adrift, take heart. The best companion you'll ever have is already right there with you, waiting to be embraced, and perhaps this is a good time to gently encourage you to explore other helpful content by subscribing and turning on notifications. Letting go opens the door to a more fulfilling life. One of the greatest gifts you can give yourself after 70 is the freedom to let go. Let go of the pressure to cling to friendships that no longer spark joy. Let go of the notion that your value lies in how many people fill your days. Let go of the fear that solitude equals loneliness. Because the moment you loosen your grip on these old beliefs, you open the door to something extraordinary, a life that's simpler, lighter, and infinitely more fulfilling. It's not about shutting people out, it's about making room for what truly matters, to you. So many of us carry friendships forward like heirlooms, holding onto them long after they've lost their shine. We show up to gatherings we secretly dread, pick up calls out of guilt, and keep up the charade of connection just because it's familiar. It's what we've always done. After all, we stayed loyal, stayed present, stayed busy. But what if you didn't have to? What if, instead of dragging these obligations along like a heavy suitcase, you set them down and walked away? What if you permitted yourself to release the relationships that feel like work and redirect that energy toward the things that light you up? Consider the example of Henry David Thoreau, who famously retreated to Walden Pond to simplify his life and focus on his own thoughts and experiences. He let go of societal expectations and embraced a life of solitude and self-sufficiency. That's the power of release. It's not about building walls or turning inward in bitterness. It's about clearing the clutter so you can see what's worth keeping. When you stop pouring energy into friendships that no longer fit you, you create space for what * does *, whether that's a passion you've neglected, a routine that soothes you, or simply the freedom to breathe without expectation. You start to notice the small joys you'd overlooked, the calm of a sunrise uninterrupted by plans, the satisfaction of a day spent on your terms, the comfort of thoughts that don't need to be explained. Fulfillment, you realize, doesn't come from how many people you can rally around you. It comes from living in a way that feels true to who you are *, not who you once were. So, if you're ever caught in that tug of war between duty and desire, wondering whether to hold onto a friendship that's run its course, ask yourself this: is this adding to my joy, or am I just holding on because it's what I've always done? Give yourself the grace to let go, and watch what happens. Life doesn't shrink when you do, it expands, becoming a canvas for everything you've earned the right to enjoy. Simpler, yes, lighter, but above all, more fulfilling than you ever imagined possible. Well, there you have it, 6 considerations about why you may not need a large number of friends after 70, and how embracing independence can lead to a more liberated and fulfilling life. As we wrap up, take a moment to think, what have you learned? Maybe it's the power of letting go of unnecessary obligations, or perhaps it's realizing how much peace your own company can bring. We'd love to hear from you. Please comment below with one thing you've learned today and how you plan to bring it into practice in your life. Your thoughts mean the world to us and keep this conversation going. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next exploration.